everybody, Dan Illman here with the DRF race of the day for Thursday, April the 4th. We're going to take a look at race number 7 at Santa Anita. It's the Grade 3 Wilshire for fillies and mares going a mile on the turf. Let's take a peek at this field. Remember that the Wilshire has been rescheduled. It was expected to be run earlier this meet at Santa Anita, but wet weather forced this race to this Thursday's card. And we've got a pretty big and competitive field. 10 fillies and mares entered the Wilshire. You have horses coming off layoffs. You have horses looking to recapture their best form that have run very well in graded stakes races, and you have a fascinating pace player stretching out around 2 turns for the first time. We take a look at our Timeform US pace projector. Stay and Scam, the number 4, she's won 3 of her last 4 starts. She's expected to be the speed, but she is stepping up in trip. She is stepping up in class. Stay and Scam, though, should be able to get to the front. The 5 Glenal should be fresh off the layoff. We haven't seen her since the late summer at Kentucky Downs, so we'll see what we get off the layoff with Glenal, but she's pretty quick out of the gate as well. Not sure she's as fast, however, as the stretch-out sprinter, Stay and Scam. A horse that should work out a good trip. And a horse that I think fits very well in this race is the number 1 School Dance. While School Dance is on a long losing streak, she hasn't won since the fall of 2022. She ran 5 times last year, all of them in graded stakes races, and she did quite well. She placed in the Grade 2 Royal Heroine back on April Fool's Day of 2023. They then tried the Grade 1 Gamely going a mile and an eighth. Maybe it was too far, maybe the competition was too tough, and maybe just that trip didn't work out for her. She had to work very hard on the lead. Whatever happened, she didn't run very well that day, and that race preceded a little bit of a layoff. She raced once at Del Mar in a graded stakes race. That didn't work out well. Another layoff. And then she returned last time out in the Wishing Wells Stakes, going down the hill at 6.5 furlongs. I think trainer Phil D'Amato used that race as a prep to stretch her out in distance, perhaps for the Wilshire. She didn't have the greatest trip that day. I think 6.5 furlongs is way too sharp for her, and I think she needed the race. She'll be sharper second off the layoff, and I think Kazushi Kimura has enough tactical speed in the engine to get this mare into a pace-tracking, ground-saving trip, a coveted trip on the turf. Selenia is the number 2. This horse did some good work last year for trainer Jonathan Thomas. Shipped out to Santa Anita and won the Grade 3 Honeymoon in only her 4th lifetime start. That was her 3rd consecutive victory. I think you can give excuses to her 2 subsequent efforts. They ran her in the Saratoga Oaks. That race was run through a heavy rainstorm over a turf course that was softer than soft, and I just don't think Selenia took to it. And then they ran her at Kentucky Downs, and that's a turf course that some horses love and some horses hate. And Selenia didn't have the greatest trip from the far outside post, very wide going into the first turn, and I don't think she handled that course as well. She is returning off of a long layoff, but a mile is good for her, and I think she's at her best when you take her back and try to make one run from off of the pace. And I believe that's what Umberto Rispoli is going to do. Another one of the also-rans from the Kentucky Downs race did come back to win her next start, a first-level allowance at Keeneland with an 81 Beyer speed figure. Ascendency is up next. This is another mare going second off the layoff. She was a winner at Santa Rosa during the summer, and then she went to the bench, and that worries me a little bit. Horses in good form usually don't go off layoffs unless something physically went awry. She returned to Turf Paradise in the Queen of the Green going a mile and a 16th. It was a race that didn't have a lot of pace. She was favored. She tried to come from way out of it. She only passed a few tired horses. I think she probably needed that race. I think she will take a step forward in her second start of the form cycle. I do wonder if she's of this class level, however, so keep an eye on Ascendency. She should be a good price, and she should be a little bit sharper, but she still has things to prove. Stay and Scam has to prove that she can last this distance against better horses, but she looked pretty good winning the Irish O'Brien. This race going down the hill at 6.5 furlongs back on March the 17th. Stay and Scam showed good tactical speed. She prompted the pace on the outside. She was on the move turning into the stretch. And despite jockey Mario Gutierrez dropping the stick at the 3/16, Stay and Scam always found just a little bit more and still won the gallop out going into the clubhouse turn. That makes me think that Stay and Scam can get the mile under the right circumstances. And the postponement of this race allowed Doug O'Neill to get her in here. It would have come back too quick if it was run on its original date. Stay and Scam Scam's going to get to the front in here. We'll see how she stays against better horses. But boy, she's sharp, and her speed figures make her very strong. The number 5 is Glenal. This horse raced for Tim Yakteen last year, was claimed by Yakteen for $50,000 and won over course and distance in her first start for the barn. Eventually won a stakes race at Lone Star. We haven't seen her since September. Running at Kentucky Downs, that was a ladies' marathon. I think that distance was too far, and I think she had the Kentucky Downs curse working against her. She's never run well at Kentucky Downs in her life. Turning back in distance works for her. The third place finisher from that last race came back to win a third level allowance with a 95 buyer. I think Glenal is going to appreciate the distance and appreciate a good trip tracking. I do wonder if she needs a race off the layoff, however. Make sure you get your value. The 6 is Nadette, and we're going to watch Nadette's last race. This is the Buena Vista going a mile. She was a big price, and I thought she ran quite well against Ruby Nell, who I feel is one of the better older filly and mare turf horses in the country. Nadette was stuck in a paceless race. They went 46-4 to the half. The winner is up close, and Nadette is still firing to run third down towards the inside. It was yet another solid performance for a mare that likely needs a little bit of pace help. She hasn't won since the spring of 2022, and she's winless since coming to North America, but she's the kind of mare that if you give her the right setup and the right trip, she's going to come with an honest run. She can at least spice up your single race exotics at the very least with a strong stretch kick. The 7 is Turner Loose, and they tried her back on dirt last time out. I think she's equally as good on dirt as she is on turf. She was third in the grade 3 Bayacoa at Los Alamitos, which means she's going to be coming into this race off a 3.5-month layoff. Her turf start 2 starts back in the Catherine Crosby, it was okay. And that's kind of been the story of Turner Loose. She began her career like she could be something, like a true Kentucky Oaks filly. She actually ran in the Kentucky Oaks after winning the Rachel Alexandra on dirt, but she's never really gotten faster as she's gotten older. She does have good tactical speed. I respect D'Amato off of layoffs, and I think Turner Loose fits better in this race than she did in races like the Maybe and the Rodeo Drive. I'm just a little bit curious about taking her at a relatively short price off a little bit of a layoff. Leisure Wear is the number 8. They tried the Santa Ana last time out for her, going long 1.25 miles. She made her first start off the long layoff, going 1.5 miles in the Astra. She showed tactical speed in both of those races, and she ran fine considering that those distances might be a little bit far for her. I don't mind her cutting back. I think she might be at her best when she's on the lead, and I'm not sure she's going to be able to get to the lead here, but I think she can work out a trip from close to the pace. She must prove that she can handle stakes competition. She's gone through her first level allowance condition. She's still eligible for a second level condition, however, and I wonder if this race is just a little bit too tough. The 9 is A Day in Asia, another horse coming off a little bit of a layoff. We haven't seen her since the Las Cienegas, going down the hill at 6.5. Her first start for D'Amato, and she was very wide that day. She ended up tiring. She's had several layoffs, though, since she's come over here from England, and that is something that concerns me. She hasn't won a race since the summer of 2022. I do trust D'Amato in these situations, however, and A Day in Asia to me looks like the kind of mare that might get the right race flow. Stretching back out to 1 mile, I think, is very good for her. I think she's more of a 7-furlong-mile horse than a true sprinter. A Day in Asia is going to offer some value in this race, but she's going to have to run a lifetime best. 30 Carats completes the field, and let's watch her most recent run as she breezes through her first level allowance in pace-pressing fashion. This was a very nice ride by Juan Hernandez, who will be off 30 Carats. Victor Espinoza has the mount on Thursday. Got close to a very moderate pace, and 30 Carats does the rest. It was a gritty performance. I'm not sure that trip is available to her here. It's a tough outside post position and tougher competition. We'll take a look at my top selection for the Wilshire, the Thursday DRF race of the day. I think Stay and Scam can stay, and that she's not a scam going 1 mile. I think she's going to go right to the front in here. Mario Gutierrez, if she can get a little breather, if you can give her a little bit of a breather on the backstretch, I think Stay and Scam in her current form might be able to sprint on home. Again, the Thursday race of the day, Santa Anita. It's the Wilshire. Best of luck.